In 2024, your host, Mark Smith, celebrated 7 years of the Microsoft Business Applications podcast. Now, we step into a transformative 2025 with a fresh new name. Welcome to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast. Our new name reflects a broader vision, exploring the intersection of people, business, technology, and AI. You'll also hear from me, Meg Smith, a bit more as we launch a new exciting series called The AI Show.
Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Plainfield, Illinois in the United States. He's a founder and CEO of Visual SP. He was first awarded as MVP in 2007. So he has been an MVP for a heck of a long time, a lot longer than me. He has been training, consulting, mentoring, and speaking at conferences on Microsoft technology since 2002. He has authored several books over the years for Wiley Publications. You can find links to his bio, social media, etc. in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Asif.
Thanks very much, Mark. Great to be here.
Good to have you on the show, and I feel you've got some interesting stories to tell, being that you've been an MVP for so long. And you've run your own company. How many years has your company been going?
By the way, just saying what you just said right now made me feel really old. The company started in 2005, but it was not Visual SP, what it's called right now. It was very much about me going out there and training people in classes, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day classes. From there, it morphed a few different times. The company that it is right now, which is a product company, a SaaS product, that's been there since 2012. But even then, the focus of that used to be on Microsoft SharePoint only. Then it went into SharePoint Online, from on-premise to online. Then it became focused for Dynamics 365 and then Power Platform. And now we support any web application. So quite some long time.
Amazing. That's as long as I've been an MVP. So I got awarded in 2012. So that's it gives me a feeling for the time and the distance. Food, family, and fun. What do they mean to you when you're not working?
Food, family, and fun. Wow. I'll start with family first. So as you mentioned, Plainfield, Illinois is where I live. It's a very small suburb, by the way, in Chicago. Actually, it's by another suburb called Naperville, which is actually it's a city by itself. Chicagoland is where I've lived for the last 35 plus years. I live with my wife, my 3 kids, one in college, one in high school, one in middle school, and all graduating next year, actually, surprisingly, all of them. So graduation, college, high school, and middle school, which again is making me feel older as I say that. But a blessing for sure. In terms of food, I am from Indian descent, so there is a lot of Indian food that I eat at home. My wife is a wonderful cook. So some of the things I can put out there, think about that is butter chicken and keema. Some people might recognize what that is, mutton, biryani. And I'm salivating just talking about that stuff. It's awesome, good stuff. But of course, I like all kinds of food, Thai food, Greek food, Lebanese, Italian, Chinese, all kinds of stuff. I like American steak. I love steak. In terms of fun, since the beginning of this year, I picked up pickleball. That's one of the only few sports that my knees can support now. I used to love playing basketball, football, volleyball, all the jumping sports, but I've kind of cut back on all of them right now. But pickleball picked up quite a bit. Table tennis, I used to play a lot, and I still do a fair amount. I compete in competitions, so that's my fun. I love sports and so forth. And hanging out with kids and just doing a lot of good stuff with my wife and extended family as well.
Nice. Isn't pickleball like taking off in the US at the moment? It just seems to be a craze around it.
The weird thing is, of course, you're also really, really far from where I am located, so you could appreciate this, that I was in 2010, I was in Europe. I can't remember exactly which city. It's still escaping me, unfortunately. But in 2010, I remember I was right below a bridge somewhere. I remember seeing a sport being played which looked much like tennis. And I'm like, what is this? This is not tennis. This is not badminton, but it's got a net. And I went over, I talked to the guys over there. They're like, oh, this is called pickleball. I'm like, what the heck is pickleball? And that was my first exposure to pickleball. I'd never heard of it in the United States and never came to the United States for quite some time. But the last few years, it's taken off quite a bit. It's ridiculous. It's like everywhere.
Were you born in India?
I was born in Pakistan. Came to United States, 1988, and I've been here ever since.
Because in those sports, you never mentioned cricket.
Yeah, I was still fairly young, so the listeners can probably guess my age by what I'm saying right now. So I was 12 and a half, almost 13 years old in 1988. Now you can do the calculations yourself. Maybe they can put in the comments how old I am. I was at that time, before that, I was in cricket, field hockey, soccer, which is football, they called it over there. But I gave up all of them because I just picked up all the American sports, playing football, basketball, soccer, quote unquote, and other things here, volleyball.
Why did you move to America?
Studies. It's one of those things where a lot of people from Indian descent, I say Indian because I'm categorizing Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, anything in those countries, come here for opportunities for education. So my parents at that time, sent me here. Something that not a lot of people in our community even know, that I did not live with my parents for the first few years. I came here, stayed with my aunt and uncle. Very challenging. Did not know the language. Did not know the culture. It was very challenging still. I was just becoming a teenager at that time. You know how teenagers are. But it was all a blessing because it really made me the man I am today. So I wouldn't change anything.
So who instilled in you the entrepreneurial spirit?
I was an accidental entrepreneur. The spirit, well, a lot of my uncles and aunts and even my father have owned businesses, some larger than others, but no one has a software specific business like I do. And I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I was not intending to start this business either. I kind of got pushed, nudged, I should say, into it with the people that I was training back in 2010, 2011, where people said you need to take what you have, productize it, and take your training and help many other people when you're not there in person. And that's when I started thinking about what can we do. So that's why we made a plugin for Microsoft SharePoint on premises, specifically at that time, called it Visual SP. And at that time, it was supposed to be just you go to what's called a help tab in the ribbon, if you remember the ribbon, right? Back in the day, you click on the help tab and you see all the context sensitive videos and tips and things like that to help the users. I've always been very passionate about mentoring, training, helping, supporting. And I almost felt an extension of what I was doing anyway. So I was very, very happy that we got the opportunity and nudge from our customers to start that. And that's just been evolving. And now in 2024, I can't believe I'm saying this, 2024, where have the years gone? We support any and all web applications. So still the same premise where you as a user, as an employee in an organization, doesn't matter where you are, you can always count on the help to be there on top of any web application like Salesforce, SharePoint, Dynamics, Microsoft 365, Workday, ServiceNow, whatever. And it's always there. It's always available to you on top of the product.
Right. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, it gives you the help and support in context of your business process. Would that be correct? Rather than how you create a new SharePoint site, which if that wasn't something you needed to do, you could use the inbuilt help from Microsoft. But is it specific to the business processes that are built into the organization?
I appreciate the clarification, Mark. That is exactly correct. See, when our customers come to us, they don't come to us saying that, well, I don't like Microsoft training or I'm not comfortable with all the stuff that's out there. It's more about how do I support and train our users at their moment of need on the business processes that we have in place, the way we do business. And that's what they can do using our application without any code very quickly. Within a minute, you can make a quick what's called a guided walkthrough or an announcement banner or an inline help icon to make it for your users so they feel supported wherever they are.
It's so important. For years when I've talked about change and adoption, organizations do, let's say, a big transformation piece, they put in a big app solution, whatever it might be, and they train all their staff and they forget about the employee that starts in 2 weeks' time, right? Or the employee that starts in 3 months' time, right? They weren't at that training. They didn't get the train the trainer, the hands-on type stuff. And the beauty of what you've done there is you've created a tool that doesn't matter when they start in the business. How do I add a new customer? How do I, reconcile an invoice? Whatever it might be, in context of their business, you're providing that help.
That's exactly it. I mean, you've, of course, talked about some scenarios from Microsoft Business Central that we would support, or Microsoft Dynamics customer engagement. Same thing in any of those things. I want to make a new contact, a new lead. I want to create a new invoice, or I want to understand what is the next step that we should follow as a salesperson to do the next thing. It's all available to you at your moment of need, right there. And the beauty of the whole thing is the user should not have to think how to do it. It should just be there. It's kind of like the example I give is, if you don't mind me taking a little bit of tangent, I was booking an airport. What was that airport parking? I think that's as simple as that. And at O'Hare Airport, Chicago O'Hare, people have a love-hate relationship with that airport.
I've flown through it.
I was booking that thing.
I've stayed there.
You know what I mean? Then when I was booking this thing, this is years ago. I remember still very, very succinctly that the subtotal it gave me for the booking was $65 or something similar to that. And then I see the total at the end step, and it said 85 or something ridiculous. I'm like, what's going on? It's $20 more. But there was a small inline help icon where I hovered over it, and it gave me all the different fees that it needed to collect because of the city, because of the airport. And I'm like, I have to pay it. I didn't like it, but they kept my business because they had that information there without saying, well, you just got to pay some extra $20 for no reason. And because of that, I was able to go through that process. I converted as a customer. Same thing, it should be that easy within our intranet, within our Dynamics applications, SharePoint applications, and Workday, ServiceNow, whatever. It should just be intuitive. So you could put a small inline help icon that's pulsating, or put up a banner that comes up at the right moment of need, or a guided walkthrough. That's the impetus of all of that stuff. Just make it easy for the users. They don't have to think about it. They just get support when they need it.
It goes back to the old adage, don't make me think. It should be intuitive, right?
There's a book of that as well, which I have, and it makes, it's just that simple.
Kerg, the guy authored that. Yeah, I remember reading it way back in my, I came into this via web design, and it was a big part of web design thinking. Because, back then there were so many bad web designs that you had to what is going on here? Tell us about the books you wrote.
I have to sigh before I say them because all of them are paperweights now, because I wrote them on technologies which don't exist anymore, unfortunately. So the first one was Microsoft SharePoint Designer 2007. That was right, and when I became an MVP right around that, SharePoint Designer 2007 was the first one, SharePoint Designer 2010 was the second one, SharePoint Designer 2013 was the third one. There was another one where 22 MVPs got together and wrote a book, real life experience. I can't remember the name, but that was also around the same time that came out. I had a chapter in there regarding business processes, regarding SharePoint Designer, InfoPath, and stuff like that. And then there's one standalone book that I wrote for power users, I believe also for SharePoint 2013. It's been so long, I can't even remember some of the names. But it's a thin book. I made it into a regular paperback, and also a really cool thing, which many people commented on that time, where if you get it on Kindle, you can actually have embedded videos directly in there. And at that time, we're talking about a decade ago, it was pretty cool. You could just flipping through the video, the content, you see a embedded video, you click on it, it starts playing. It was very, very cool. Many people told me. So those were the folks. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tangent all over the place. Embedded video. What's your screen recording software of choice for your company?
Yeah, well, there's two different ones. This is actually my personal choices. Camtasia is what I've used for decades now, literally. And then recently I've been using I've been using Loom quite a bit. There's also Microsoft Stream. I was just about to say that, but just to be honest and straightforward, I do not use the Stream Recorder. It's good, but I don't need it, so I don't use it. I have other tools that I've paid for and use that. So Loom, Camtasia are my tools of choice. Adobe Acrobat, long time ago, play with a little bit, but not Acrobat. Adobe. I'm sorry, what was it called? Yeah, I'm talking about. There's another Adobe product.
I can't remember.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Used that a long time ago, but it was too complex. Didn't make sense. I'm a simple kind of guy.
I do remember
like
there was an education training material type tool that Adobe used to have that was used a lot. It's interesting. I've stopped using Camtasia and I use Microsoft Clipchamp for everything now. Much lower footprint. It's hyper modernized. Microsoft bought Clipchamp from a Australian company about last 3 years. And man, I've done hundreds of hours of content now in it. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant in that as an MVP, you get a full license to it. But I love the screen recording functionality. Brilliant. It'll give you prompts about how you can even improve how you're doing, like with AI. And then the captioning is just on point. They're using AI to do the captioning. It's really tight. So before I put anything to YouTube, I won't rely on YouTube captioning. I'll do it in there. It gives me the STR files or whatever they are for closed captioning. I get my wife to run through it and correct all my mistakes or my Kiwiisms from coming from New Zealand, and then upload that with the YouTube clip, and it's on point. It's accurate. It's brilliant. There's still some features that I wish it had, but it is a solid, robust tool I've been using for some time now. And it's as I say, since I've had it on, I've not opened Camtasia once, which is still on my computer. And I tell you, I still do use the TechSmith product, which is their Snagit. I still use that. I like the way you can overlay, put arrows. I just used it in the last hour to send off instructions. But the other one you had there, Loom, I was on Loom from day one, and I still pay for a full subscription of that. I just find it, particularly working with contractors, it's so much easier for me rather than type a whole bunch of. I just do a recording, pop it out, and I've shown them on screen what I'm meaning, etc. Really solid tool.
We are on the same wavelength. The only thing I'll add over here is that another reason for Camtasia that I still keep on using because we're paying for it. And it's one of those things where you're paying for a product, you feel like, well, I might as well use it every year. I'm paying for it. So, but I appreciate the tip. I'm going to dive deeper into Clipchamp.
I've never paid for it because once again, it was an MVP benefit, right? Camtasia was always an MVP.
Not anymore. Used to be.
Not anymore. Exactly. And I mean, when they took those benefits away is when all these modern ways, these new modern tools that have come out, But yeah, it's interesting. Tell me the great things that you've noticed, and then off air, we will discuss anything else.
Love it. Politically correct question. Okay. In the beginning, 2007, when I first became an MVP, there were a lot of benefits in terms of the hotel, private room that you get. Lots of expenses covered. You get a huge benefit to spend on the store. There were, I think, 70, 80, not more than that, maybe even less MVPs in my discipline, which was Microsoft SharePoint at that time, on premises in 2007. It was very tight knit. It was really tight relationship with the MVP lead as well. Everything has expanded, some for the better, some we'll talk about offline. But the program has grown so much, so many. I don't even know the count exactly of MVPs that are out there. And I've gone from being a Microsoft SharePoint on-premises MVP to online to Microsoft 365, and now I'm in Microsoft Dynamics / Business Applications MVP. That's where I gravitated towards. So I've been in a bunch of different technologies. At one point, I was a Microsoft Viva MVP as well. I don't think that's the case anymore. Yeah, that was for a couple of years, Microsoft Viva.
The Viva products seem to have taken some unusual directions, or features, particularly, things like topics. I think it is in SharePoint. They seem to be disappearing, Viva topics. And
it's gone.
Yeah.
Topics is gone.
Yeah, and I can kind of see in the age of Purview and the ability to auto metadata, auto tag, etc. Like, why do you need people to manually do that?
It was very time consuming, a huge human intensive process, which never really caught on, to be honest. Otherwise, the premise behind topics was awesome. So to cap what I was saying, recently, I've had to miss one or two MVP summits here and there, but I used to go pretty regularly before. It's still a very valuable, very valuable event to go to. Really enjoy it. The main reason, I'm sure, if you go and I go and others, we go to meet and talk to the community, talk to the product team. And that by itself is the main value from the Microsoft MVP program, to be able to give your opinion, your thoughts about what's working, what's not working. I've noticed that the product team, especially the last few years, have been very receptive to the MVPs. At one point, there was a little bit of a lag, I think, in some days, but now it's been a lot better. And then, of course, the networking with MVPs around the world. I mean, you got MVPs everywhere coming in one location. It's almost like a pilgrimage that we all make at once a year. So wonderful to be able to do that.
Totally agree. Asif, it's been great hearing your story. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Support for this episode comes from Justin Welsh's guide to finding your voice on LinkedIn. When I worked at Google, I never posted on LinkedIn because I didn't think anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. Then I took Justin's course, and it gave me the confidence to start sharing authentically. Check it out if you've been wanting to show up on LinkedIn but don't know how to start. Sign up using the link in the show notes.